Hey YouTubers, this is a list of the top 10 people that influenced rock and roll. They are not all rockers, not all musicians, but they all did play a huge role in defining rock and roll as we know it today. Please click that like button and subscribe for more videos. Number 10. Big Joe Turner, born Joseph Vernon Turner Jr. in Kansas City, Missouri on March 18, 1911. Big Joe was a blues shouter that began his career as a bartender. He would shout rhythmic lyrics while Pete Johnson played boogie-woogie piano in the clubs they were working simultaneously. They began performing together and in 1939 recorded Rollin' Pete, which is widely regarded as the first rock and roll recording. Whereas rocking blues elements had been incorporated into popular music of the day, this was the first recorded piece where riffs later used by Chuck Berry and other pioneering rockers were teamed with the traditional blues form to create a new sound. It is for this reason that Big Joe Turner is on the list. He is so influential to rock and roll because he created the template for rock and roll music. He died of heart failure on November 24, 1985. Number 9. Sara Martin, born June 18, 1884 in Louisville, Kentucky, was one of the most famous blues singers of her time. In 1922, she and pianist Fats Waller recorded You Got Everything a Sweet Mama Needs But Me, Tain't Nobody's Business If I Do, and other legendary early blues singles. In 1923, her guitar player Sylvester Weaver recorded Guitar Blues, which is the first appearance of the blues guitar in recording history. This milestone played a role in furthering blues as the new popular music of America, but it also played a role in defining the guitar as one of its foremost and important instruments. Sara Martin is on the list because she created the first blues guitar recording. Without the blues guitar, there would be no rock and roll. Sara Martin died of a stroke on March 24, 1955. Number 8. Lonnie Donegan, born Anthony James Donegan on April 29, 1931 in Glasgow, Scotland. He is known as the King of Skiffle. Skiffle is a name given to a type of early rocking blues from the American South during the 1920s and 30s. In 1956, Lonnie brought skiffle to the English pop scene with his cover of Leadbelly's Rock Island Line. Lonnie's revival of skiffle was more successful than anyone could have imagined for one huge reason. It inspired people like Jimmy Page and Van Morrison. There was even a small skiffle band that came out of Liverpool called the Quarrymen. Later, they changed their name to the Beatles. For more information on the skiffle explosion, a book was released in 2017 by Billy Bragg, himself being a candidate for this list, called Roots, Radicals, and Rockers. Lonnie Donegan is one of the most important people to influence rock and roll. Without his contributions, the English invasion of the 1960s may never have happened. Lonnie died on November 3, 2002 of a heart attack. Number 7. Les Paul, born Lester William Pulsfus on June 9, 1915 in Waukesha, Wisconsin, is an American guitar player and master of jazz, blues, and country styles. As well as being one of the first shredders, he was an inventor and pioneer of musical effects such as delay. In 1940, Les Paul visited the Epiphone Guitar Factory where he built the Log. This was the first Les Paul guitar. In 1952, Gibson, Epiphone's parent company, began selling the Les Paul signature model electric guitar. This has become one of the most prevalent and successful endorsements of a product in the history of business. Les Paul is on this list because his guitar is still played and prized within every genre of rock and roll. They are literally everywhere. Les Paul died of complications from pneumonia on August 12, 2009. Number 6. Gene Krupa, born Eugene Bertram Krupa on January 15, 1909 in Chicago, Illinois. Gene Krupa inspired Keith Moon, Ginger Baker, and all others that used a double bass drum in early rock and roll. Gene Krupa rose to fame in 1937 for his drum solo in Sing 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 by Louis Prima and his New York gang. During his career, Gene was endorsed by Slingerland Lynn Drums, who he urged to develop the modern tom-toms that we see on virtually every drum set today. Furthermore, he worked with Zildjian cymbals to develop the modern cymbal complement of crashes, a ride cymbal, and a foot-controlled hi-hat. Gene Krupa truly does live up to his title of the father of the modern drum set, bestowed on him by Modern Drummer magazine. And that is why he is on this list. Gene Krupa died on October 16, 1973 of heart failure. Number 5, Ike Turner, born Isaiah Luster Turner Jr. on November 5th, 1931 in Clarksdale, Mississippi, was an American guitarist, songwriter, and talent scout. I was originally going to include Howlin' Wolf on this list, but learned that he was discovered at age 41 by a 20-year-old Ike Turner in 1951. I was not aware of Ike's contribution to rock and roll, as we all should be. This man had a legendary life from a very young age. He even admits to having sex at 6 years old. As a kid, he began hanging around WROX, an early blues station that broadcasted from Clarksdale's Alcazar Hotel. Soon after, he was offered a job as a disc jockey, and he began meeting the most influential blues artists of the day. It was around this time that Ike learned the guitar and piano. He paired up with Jackie Bronston and in 1951 recorded the song Rocket 88, which is important because it is inarguably the first rock and roll song. Whereas Joe Turner's Rollin' Pete was a rock and roll song too, the genre rock and roll would have to wait for its official birth and naming upon Ike and Jackie's 1951 milestone. Throughout his life, Ike Turner enjoyed great fame and did pretty much whatever he wanted. Ike Turner died on December 12, 2007 from a cocaine overdose. Number 4, Malcolm McLaren, born Malcolm Robert Andrew McLaren on January 22, 1946, is a British sex shop owner, band manager, visual artist, and musician. In the early 1970s, McLaren spent some time in New York where he was heavily influenced by the burgeoning punk scene and bands like the Ramones and the Voidoids. Malcolm McLaren worked for a short time as the New York Dolls manager, but parted ways over different ideas regarding fashion. He famously went on to merge these ideas, bondage clothing and safety pins, with the angry protest music of the 1970s New York scene, interpreted by the band he formed, managed, and named, called the Sex Pistols. Malcolm McLaren is influential to rock and roll because he took its more jagged elements and highlighted them in a time where rock bands were becoming inaccessibly huge and polished. Though Malcolm has been accused of stealing Richard Hell's style, he can still be appreciated for knowing what was cool and how to make it widely noticed. Malcolm McLaren died on April 8, 2010 of peritoneal mesothelioma. For more information on the early punk scene, please read Please Kill Me by Legs McNeil and Gillian McCain. It's amazing. Number 3, Sister Rosetta Tharpe, born Rosetta Newbin on March 20th, 1915 in Cotton Plant, Arkansas, is an American guitarist, singer, and songwriter. Just listen to Rosetta Tharpe and you'll quickly see that every blues and rock guitarist after her was playing her riffs. Her gospel recordings in the 1930s were so rife with her distorted, fast blues-driven licks that guitarists didn't know what else to do but copy her. And that is why she is on this list. Unfortunately, Rosetta Tharpe is not as well known as she should be these days. Her music is still as mind-blowing today as it was 80 years ago. Sister Rosetta Tharpe died on October 9th, 1973 of a stroke. Number 2, Django Reinhardt, born January 23, 1910, named Jean Reinhardt, in Liberkeys, Belgium, is a gypsy jazz guitarist. My original intention was to put Tony Iommi on this list, but when Tony Iommi was offered his first record deal, he quit his job at the sheet metal factory where he worked, and within his last week, he lost 3 fingertips in an accident. Tony's foreman attempted to boost his spirits by showing him Django Reinhardt, another guitar player whose fretting hand had been mutilated in a fire in 1928. Iommi realized that he did not have to give up on his dreams and went on to be very influential in his own right. It is possible that Iommi's success would have never happened if it were not for Reinhardt. That is why he is on this list. Plus, let's not forget that Django was quite a shredder as well. Django Reinhardt died on May 16, 1953 of a brain hemorrhage. And finally, number 1, Lemmy. Born Ian Fraser Kilmister on December 24, 1945 in Stoke-on-Trent, England, is an English bass guitarist, singer, and songwriter. In his young life, he was a Beatles fan, a Jimi Hendrix roadie, and the founder of Motorhead in 1975. Motorhead is special because they are indisputably loved by punks, metalheads, and everyone else that knows good rock and roll. Lemmy is important because his look, lifestyle, and sound serve as the template that all serious modern rock lives by. Lemmy is the link between old classic rock and roll and its new multi-genre permutation with many different looks and styles, though at their heart they are all derived from the basic elements that defined Motorhead: toughness, speed, heaviness, tradition, and insanity. Rock and roll would look and sound very different today if Motorhead never existed, and that is why Lemmy is number one on this list. Lemmy died on December 28, 2015 of prostate cancer, cardiac arrhythmia, and congestive heart failure. Thanks for watching. If you feel that I missed somebody, please leave their name in a comment. Have a great night, see you next time, and please don't forget to subscribe.